Welcome back to Blissful Beings. In today's episode, Dr. Mel and I are talking about grief, the stages of grief, and how to help understand the emotional pain people go through when they lose someone they love. Grief and death are experiences that every single person on this planet will go through, and so this episode is for everyone. Let this also serve as a reminder that nothing is promised. The truth is, you have less time on this earth than you think. So live your life with a sense of urgency and honor those who are no longer in your life by continuing to grow until your last day comes.
So we can't really talk about grief without going through the 7 stages. Some people pass through the 7 stages of grief relatively quickly, navigating all the stages as they process their emotions. Others may experience one stage more than once and for different lengths of time, as the grief process varies from person to person. These are all normal experiences of grief, and it's essential to understand that there is no instant happiness or quick fix when it comes to healing.
The first of the 7 stages of grief, shock and denial, is typically when emotions are most profound. The fact that you have experienced a loss may be evident, but you still have underlying feelings of shock, disbelief, or panic as you try and deal with the situation. I've actually been by my boyfriend's side this past week, and his mom passed away. Unfortunately, it was from dementia. So it's been over the past few years of her losing her cognitive ability. But he stated at first, even, when she passed, that he feels like a part of him is no longer with him, like as if like he lost a lung. No matter whether it's like a fight through cancer or immediately, I still feel like no matter what, when you do eventually lose, especially a parent, it's still like a shock and denial stage initially.
100%. I couldn't agree with you more. I feel like I've heard people say this over and over again, where some people feel like, oh, if they've had an illness for a long time, you can see it coming. But still, like, I don't think you ever truly are ready for somebody who is super.
Never. I have a very close coworker who lost his dad. He's like, even if you think you're equipped, you're not.
Stage 2 is pain and guilt. So after you get through the shock and denial, once your shock starts to fade, you may begin to notice the pain of the loss. The pain may feel physical as well as emotional. You may start to feel guilty about something you could or should have done. I felt this way when I lost my grandma. I was in the middle of physical therapy school when my grandma fell and slipped down the stairs, and she ended up having a traumatic brain injury. I remember being in PT school and saying, why couldn't I finish school already? Why couldn't I have helped her with her balance and worked on her being safe at the house? Even though that's completely irrational, there's no way I could have sped up time and saved her life. I still carried that pain and guilt for not being able to help her. So during this stage, it's completely normal to seek reason or wonder if you could have done something that would have prevented the loss, or feel remorse for not being able to make peace with a loved one. I've heard of a lot of people saying that, like, I wish I was able to save the relationship or make peace with that loved one before they left, or I wish I had that one other phone call. But it's overwhelming and a natural emotion related to grief. It's completely normal to feel this way. And it's crucial to acknowledge these emotions and seek support and counseling if this is just continuing to recur in your head and you can't cope with it.
So, stage 3 is anger and frustration. It is not uncommon for someone who is grieving to experience feelings of anger or frustration. Those who experience grief feel many emotions and thoughts that can be difficult to process. Some people may feel resentment towards the person responsible for the loss. Others may feel Anger directed towards God or a higher power. Someone who grieves might even experience stages of anger towards the lost loved one and may blame the person for leaving them.
Like Janine said earlier, I don't think it matters how old you are. You're still going to be upset that this physical body, this physical being that's so close to you that you can't talk to anymore. So it's completely normal to be mad. It takes time. So don't beat yourself up about feeling this way. It's completely normal to go through this stage. Following the anger stage is stage 4. A grieving person generally begins to reflect upon the loss they experienced and how it has affected their life. The reality of the loss may be felt more during this stage, as attempts to bargain for more time are not realized. So withdrawal from others to deal with feelings of grief alone is a common occurrence during this stage. A person might also experience hopelessness or confusion about their own future. While personal time is important, it is also crucial to have a support system of people to lean on during this stage of grief. Some people may benefit from being in nature and having more space to think clearly.
Stage number 5. During this later stage of the process, your initial intense emotions associated with grief may start to actually fade. It may be so slight that you don't even realize it at first, and you won't feel relief all at once. What you may feel is a little less pain, a little less sadness, and more positive emotions. At this stage, you might get over the anger, might slowly get over feeling resentful, and then you start remembering all of the good moments.
And then approaches stage 6. For many people, mourning is a process. This process is not always about feeling stressed or overwhelmed, though. During the reconstruction and working through a phase of grief, a grieving person begins to work through the aftermath of the grief and loss. However, it may seem to take a different turn, since during this stage, you may begin to feel a sense of control over your life again. You're finally getting back into your groove again, and it's okay to start to feel this way. I think a lot of people beat themselves up when they're starting to feel good again. You're allowed to find happiness again. You're allowed to enjoy the little things again.
So, stage 7, acceptance. Acceptance and hope represent the final stage of the grieving process. You might now be able to experience memories without suffering through despair. For example, during this final stage, it may become easier to talk about the loss you have experienced. You may be more likely to open up about what you're feeling and thinking with family or friends. While you might still have moments of feeling sad or regretful, this stage typically represents an ability to accept what has happened and to reflect upon the good times rather than dwelling on the sad.
There's no right or wrong way to grieve, and there's no exact timetable. Getting through this pain, however, can be extremely difficult to do on your own. And friends and family do not always have the insights or the tools needed to help. Seeking professional help can aid in your healing process.
So, the takeaway from this episode is loss is one of the most difficult hardships we'll go through in our life journey. The stages of grief may feel out of our control and can release a lot of painful emotions. It's helpful to know the signs of grief and have strategies for taking care of yourself. If you listen this far, you know we went over the 7 stages of grief. The number 1 being shock and denial, 2, pain and guilt, 3, anger and frustration, 4, depression, reflection, and loneliness, 5, the upward turn, 6, reconstruction and recovery, and 7, acceptance. Thank you for listening to Blissful Beings with Dr. Mel and myself, Janine. If these episodes resonate with you, please show us support by subscribing to our channel and sharing our podcast with a friend. You can also connect with us over Instagram at Live Well With Dr. Mel and at Janine Cassio. We look forward to keeping in touch.